Chaplain with Jump Pack Kitbash, you reckon? Alright then. So these are the two chaplains I'll be using today to make our Chaplain with Jump Pack. Now I chose this Blood Angels one because it's got a lot of good bits on it, including these collars which you don't really see on a lot of other models, so I had to nab them. Then I went about clipping these rocks off the Indomitus Chaplain on his feet, because he's going to be flying through the air. We don't want any extra baggage on the bottom of those feet. I do apologise, my hands are like the sun right now, but that does go away in just a moment. Here I'm just chopping off his arms, because I buy my models second hand. If that means paying less, but then being already assembled, then so be it. That purity seal's coming off him as well. Now I'm just refining, taking off them rocks off this guy's foot, because like I said, we don't want them. I'm actually going to pin him, which you'll see a bit later. And of course, I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm taking the top off the Crozius of the Blood Angel. And I'm actually going to trim the top, as you'll see, of the original one. And stick it on there. Ouch. This is how our boy's looking so far, with those collars glued on. Looking pretty sharp, if I do say so myself. Here's the head coming on. Obviously I'm going to use the Blood Angels one because that is cool. Now I'm switching over to the arms, particularly this one holding the Crozius from the Indomitus Chaplain. I had to trim back his pauldron because I think the way it's designed is that the arm has to go on and fits to another part of the pauldron, so I just trimmed that away. This is what he's looking like with his jump pack on. I just took the one from the Blood Angels Chaplain because that is really nice. I also use this old Power Fist. I think it's from an old Death Company kit or something like that. You can equip him with a Crozius and a Power Fist in game, so I thought why not give him both. There was a couple of holes on the other side from where I had to pull off the arm, so I'm just filling up them with some trusty old sprue goo. Now I'm going to go about test fitting the arm to make sure I can get it in the right position. I end up pulling it off, but it doesn't matter because that's all going to be covered up anyway. Thought I'd assemble the Crozius, or as I call it, the bonk stick. I wanted to give him an extra large one because, well, you'll see at the end, I think he deserves it. I've taken that old shoulder pauldron from the Blood Angels one too, because that is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen, and I definitely had to include that. Here's a quick brief of what he looks like so far, before I put the next pauldron on. I think this is, again, an old Blood Angels shoulder pauldron. They're some of the best. It's a shame we didn't get any particularly good ones for 10th edition. I decided on a place to put the purity seal. I thought it'd look good on his chest, so I just went ahead and glued that on. Very carefully. Now I thought I'd take this iron halo off the Indomitus Chaplain's power pack too, because that is just another bit I can't miss out on kitting this guy out with. It needed a little trim, so I just got a trusty old nail file out, shaved that down a little bit, and went ahead and glued it on the top. Little tip when gluing on tiny bits like this, I put a little bit of the Tamiya glue on, get it in place, let it dry, then go ahead and add a bit more of this glue just to seal it on there properly. Now it's time to give this guy some proper drip. I went back and took some bits off the old Blood Angels models because that's where all the best bits are. He's got an iron cross looking thing on the back with a blood vial or a gem. Then there was this dual blood drop gem thing that I took off an old Death Company chainsword, and I thought that would fit perfectly with the Crozius on the bottom. So even though he's already got a chalice on one of his shoulder pads engraved on there, I thought I'd take this thing and put it on his other shoulder pauldron just to add a bit more drip, because with Blood Angels you can never have enough. Found another blood vial as well, so we're going to put that on his belt. And like I say, with these things I just take my time. Either use Tamiya or the sprue goo, which actually holds it in place a lot better. Now this is what I do with all my models, and depending on if they're a character or not, I'll elevate them a bit more with some cork. In my opinion, this takes your models to the next level, literally. By the way boys, if you're enjoying the video, drop us a like and consider subscribing. Here's the model complete, so I think it's about time we get some paint on him. Now before you anti-airbrushers go to the comments, don't worry, this is just a primer. The rest of the model will be painted with brushes. After priming, I gave it another spray with the airbrush of the black I'll be using to cover up any mistakes. Obviously this can be done with a brush as well. So I thought I'd go ahead and put some gold on him first, as it's easier to cover up when you start painting the rest of the model. Here you can see me tidying up my mistakes. For the wings, I'm using 3 different colours, but first I start off with gory red, getting a couple of coats on there so we get a nice dark red base. Also I apply this to the handle of the Crozius and a couple of other parts. The first chunky highlight, I use a mix of 50-50 with gory red and bloody red. And I finish that off with a fine edge highlight of bloody red on its own. Now it's time for the tabard and any purity seals. Because we're working off a black base, I put a couple of coats of Wraithbone on all of them. His book on the back, I put some army paint, a leather brown on there. I did this with the belt too, but I hadn't done it yet, so just keep that in mind. Good old Agrax Earthshade came next. I did shade the tabard with Seraphim Sephir, and also the purity seals have Skeleton Horde on just to make them a bit more darker. There's a couple of bone-like elements to his armor, so I just hit them with some Wraithbone. With the Crozius handle, I use the same formula as I did in the wings, gory red, a mix of that and bloody red, and then finally, in between the lines, just some bloody red on its own. To unify the colours a bit better, on the Crozius handle and the wings, I use some Blood Angels red, thinned it a little of course, and I think this just adds a bit more to the red. So once I've done any tidying up, I thought I'd move on to highlighting the black armour. I'm using 3 different colours for this. Normally you can go with grey or blue for your black armour highlights, but I went with blue, and I started off with a nice chunky one of Dark Reaper. Following that, we got some Thunderhawk blue and add a bit of a thinner edge highlight. Blue Horror was the final sort of really thin edge highlight I used, particularly on raised areas, but honestly, if you go over other parts of the model, doesn't really matter. Quick side note for the tabards and purity seals, I used their original colours to highlight them. It was Screaming Skull, and then for the tabards I went back to Wraithbone. Onto my one and only oil wash next. I used some raw umber and mix that with a bit of white spirit, and as you'll see, it adds a lovely dark shade to all those gold parts. Don't worry about overspilling the oil wash, because you can just go back afterwards with a makeup sponge and get rid of any excess. The silver metallic parts, like on the jump pack and the belt buckle, I used one of the Vallejo metal colours. I think it's just the normal silver one. That's super bright and the coverage is just great. When it comes to shading the silvers, you can use a black oil wash, but I just went with some trusty old Nuln oil and had a little sip as well. I thought I'd relayer some of that beautiful gold back on. I didn't end up going for a highlight because I wanted to keep it quite dark, and honestly, I don't think this recipe particularly needs it. Now when it comes to Blood Angels, you have got to make sure you get those blood drop gems looking beautiful. I won't go over my recipe too much in this video, but I will have a short 5-minute one coming out soon where I show you how I do mine. Now for the jump pack, I want that to have a nice red-orange glow, but I'm actually using a paint I hadn't tried before. FX Brilliant White, I believe. I didn't realise till after I got the paint out, it's actually more of a metallic. And to be honest, I don't think it did a particularly good job. I'd probably stick to white in the future. While that's drying, I went ahead and added some Dawnstone to highlight the soft armour parts, and then some Cygor Brown to start writing some little words on the purity seals. Of course, I thought I'd put a little blood drop on there too. I used bloody red for that and just took a very small brush and also took my time. So we're on the home stretch now with the fluorescent colours. I started off with a red, which was by FX2, but I thought this one does a pretty good job, and wrote some letters on some of the parchment on his fist and on his other shoulder pauldron. I put some little dots of white in there, and following that I added some orange fluorescent paint. Now here's a little secret on how I make my gems pop, but just don't tell anyone. This is the only decal I'm adding to this model. It's just your simple white blood drop. I did try adding 2, but I didn't think it looked good. So after adding that Blood Angels red earlier, I thought the wings could use a bit of a matte down, so I just used some varnish from Vallejo to sort that out. Finally, the base was primed black too, and I gave it a couple of dry brush passes using Dawnstone and Blue Horror. For my Blood Angels, I went for a snowy base. I think it makes the red armour, the gold armour, and obviously the black armour pop. Ultimately, it is up to you what you want to do, but this is how I do mine. I absolutely cover the base with some PVA glue. I don't really care, it can always be wiped off. And then I went ahead and dipped it in some of the Army Painter's snow sprinkles, which gives us a nice start to that snow base I'm after. Next up is a bit of Valhalla Blizzard. Adds a really nice hard texture of snow. I know it's not the cheapest, but I like it. To bring a bit more significance to the base, I added a couple of Citadel's contrast blue colours, and then washed it down with some water afterwards just to make sure it's not too strong. Couple of tufts of grass just to add some more interest, a bit of green in there, and then I covered them up with some more Valhalla Blizzard. Lock in the base and make sure we don't have any snow flying about all over our models. Let's go ahead and take our chaplain off his base and see what he looks like. It was quite a fun kit bash and an easy one, to be honest, and I'm just hoping that when 11th edition drops, if we do get a new Jump Chaplain, that it's on par, if not better, than the one I've made today. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments, drop the video a like, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every week. In a bit.